two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Conscious Experience. I am the humble host of the show. I go by the name of Therese, and I got my right-hand man as always with me. He goes by the name of Lap. What's goody?
Yo, live and direct.
And for all the conscious viewers who are watching the show on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content. All right, we got a very special guest in the building today. He attended the same alma mater as Brian and myself. He graduated from Florida Atlantic University. Shout out to them boys.
Woo.
Yep. He's a musician, plays the piano, ladies. And he's a financial representative at Northwestern Mutual. Introducing the young King Zaire. What's good, my G?
What's up, gentlemen? Pleasure you guys having me tonight on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Right. It's our honor to have you on the show, man. Here at the Conscious Experience, we strive to have like insightful, relevant conversations with experts in their own respective field. And like we said before the show, where you're at in your career at such a young age, and I know that you're very sharp and on top of it, and you're a student right now in the financial game. Like, I mean, every single day you're learning something new in this game. So you are sharp and you're on top of it. And I promise to all the viewers out there who are listening, there's going to be so many gems, financial gems dropped in this episode. So get your notepad, listen to this show 5,000 times.
Get your popcorn.
Right. There's gonna be so much information out there because we all can get our finances up. I mean, everybody can. You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait for us to get into the show. Before we get to that, I have a quote that I created this past week.
Okay.
Yeah. That
Okay.
that I want to pretty much introduce to give our viewers like some context and where we're going in. So it starts with this. The quote is about wealth. All right. So the quote says, "Money and materialistic value isn't a true measurement of wealth. Wealth can be determined by how much financial education the individual holds inside." And what I like to do is draw a parallel line to this lottery example. What usually happens when you get an individual who lacks financial education when they come into a large sum of money? Well, they usually lose that money within a year or 3 years. They have no financial education. And it's not like, so what I'm basically saying is your wealth is what helps cultivate and maintains and grows your wealth, not money and cars and all that stuff. That's just a product. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts on that. So I have like two takes on that. Because one, I feel like with the lottery mindset, the reason why a lot of people lose a lot of lump sums of money, in my personal opinion, is because they know that they're not worth that amount of money. And what that means is that you have you really become very cheap, right? It's like, okay, if I win $1 million, if I spend $1, I'm no longer a millionaire. So I got to try to hoard all this money and be very, very cheap. I have no idea how to grow it, X, Y, and Z. And I know if I ever lose it, there's no way I can make it back because all I've done is exchange time for money.
Right.
And so the other aspect of it is, for example, if you look at athletes, right? Mm-hmm. Money is a byproduct. Money isn't real. It's a way to kind of monetize human energy and value. So, the money just catches up with the value that you bring. So if you look at like LeBron, maybe you get $1 billion contract, obviously it's bigger than basketball. It's your influence as well. And so with that, there's just different types of ideas that people or relationships people have with money. So to the second point, I was watching an interview with Grant Cardone. There's a show on Discovery where, I guess it's like, I forgot the name of it, but it's where certain millionaires or billionaires, they'll get dropped off in a city in nowhere, change their name, have no resources, and they have 90 days to become a millionaire again. And what he did, he basically kind of, I don't think the show aired yet on his episode, but he was just talking about, so there's two women that went before him. They ended up, getting jobs at first to get the money.
Right.
He didn't. So his whole idea, or the way he did it, they told him to slow down, because everything was just hitting on point.
Really?
Yeah, because what was happening, he didn't want to own anything. He didn't want any money. He just wanted equity.
Right.
So what he would do is, one of the examples, he went to a business owner, and he said, I'll promote, I'll be on the street with the sign X, Y, and Z. He just wants opportunity. He got a story, he made up a story of the person he was.
Right.
And so he ended up making that business a lot of money, the most money they had in a while, over a weekend.
Yeah.
So the owner was like, oh, what can I do to pay you? This and that, blah, blah, blah. He was like, you don't have to pay me. I just want to be a partner. He became a partner.
Right.
So then he had all these technically assets without paying for them or owning them, but he had control over it. And then from there, he just scaled up.
Right.
And continued to scale up, and made certain connections with people. So nobody gave him any money,
Right.
but yet he had all these assets, and he did it that way. So I was like, wow, that's a different perspective.
Right.
It's he didn't need anybody to pay him. He got equity of a business. Technically owned a car because
Right.
it was company car X, Y, and Z.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah.
so it was just crazy to see how he basically created wealth.
Yeah.
In 90 days like that.
That's interesting, man. That's very interesting. I want to start with you, Zaire, and with this question right here. What called you to pursue a career as a financial representative?
Man, that's a great question. Well, growing up, me personally, I've just always been, great with handling my own money, whether it was saving for a big purchase or, budgeting, whatever the case may have been. And I just knew, the people around me weren't, as good as I was with handling and managing their money. So, as I got older, I was like, hey, maybe there's a way that I can find out to, help people get back in regards to, educating them about financial literacy, helping them manage and handle their wealth. So, as I'm learning, I could just keep passing the knowledge forward, and then hopefully they can continue to pass the knowledge forward. And it's just a whole domino effect.
Right. Awesome. And so to even further break it down, if I showed up to your office Monday and I was like, okay, what does a financial representative do for me? What would you, what I'm saying? What would you do for me,
Yeah. So how I usually like to sit down, with individuals, I always ask them, hey, what are, some goals or dreams that you want to pursue and accomplish within the next 3 years? And usually based off of that question and the answer that they give me, that sort of just tells me, either, one, how ambitious the individual is. And then two, it just also gives me, insight on, their current financial situation and then the future financial situation they want to be in. So from there, I sort of have an idea in mind, okay, I know where we sort of need to start implementing things in regards to a plan. Right. But obviously there's still more things come before that in regards to, finding out some more details, whether you have some debt, maybe you're sitting on a inheritance, whatever the case may be. So there's a few minor things that go into it, but I always start out with that question because that question alone tells me a lot.
Right. Gives you a nice visual of what's going on in that person's finances.
Yeah, really got to personalize it, because when you ask real good questions like that, people realize they don't need $1 million to retire X, Y, and Z to hit their goals.
Absolutely.
Right.
So this question is going to start with a statistic because this is very alarming when I read it. And so I thought it was interesting enough to bring it up on the show. So the statistic reads, 78% of American workers live check to check. I'm gonna say that again. 78% of American workers live check to check, meaning that most people monthly expenses are equal to or more than their monthly income. So it's like a lot of people are in that, that hamster wheel where they have to keep making, X amount of money to ensure that they stay alive. But it's so tight that if you take a day off of work or whatever, like, you're in trouble. So what I hear a lot is those individuals like that usually don't have enough money to invest or to save, and the biggest excuse is, I don't have any money after I pay my bills. I don't have any money after I pay my bills. What do you make of this, first of all, of that percentage, and what are some recommendations you would give to people who are living check to check, who have a tight income budget?
Well, first and foremost, that percentage is very alarming. 78%, I believe you said.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's really scary. But I feel like, another question that sort of you could tie to that is, so with that 78% living, check to check, do you think it's because, people aren't earning enough with the jobs that they have? Or do you think people are living above their means?
I'm gonna answer you on that. I think it's people who are living above their means, for sure.
And that's another thing too. A lot of people, put themselves in debt and dig these deep holes because they want to live above their means, and whether it's trying to look like we have it for social media when we really don't, things like that just really affects us. So when I sit down with individuals, I always like to do this simple exercise in regards to, I'll simply ask them, hey, how much are you bringing home, every month after taxes? They give me one number. I'll be like, all right, cool. What are your fixed expenses and bills every month? And they give me another number. So based on these two numbers, obviously we get a surplus majority of the time, and you'd be surprised that some people are like, hey, whether it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 they have extra every month, you'd be surprised the responses I get when I tell them that. They're like, oh, there's no way I have that much money left over. You have to be, something's wrong. I'm like, based off this number you gave me and this other number that you gave me, this is what's left over.
Right.
So it just really sort of, shows you that, hey, people are really just spending and not even thinking about it, blinking an eye. They're just swiping a card or whatever the case may be.
Right. And that's where we get into the conversation of assets versus liabilities. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, are you purchasing more liabilities than, what's in the asset column? But before we even get to that, saving strategies. Robert Kiyosaki, who's a successful multi-billionaire in real estate, came up with a saving strategy that I use to this day that has helped me so much. And it's the 50-30-20 rule. All right?
Get into it.
It's funny you say that, because I had that percentage. I was like, okay, he has a percentage he wants to mention on the show. I got another one for you.
And for all the viewers who are like, what's the 50-30-20? All right, the 50, a part of the equation is for your necessities, right? That's for your bills, groceries. In my case, haircut is a necessity. So, but all the necessities that you can't live, like you absolutely need on a monthly basis. The 30% actually goes to fund money. Like that you use that money for things that you want to do or whatever. And then the 20% is for saving and investing. Me personally, I flipped the use case for the 30 and 20 because I'm more focused on my investments than anything. Because I know, at the end of the day, that's what's going to make me, be able to have passive cash flow and infinite returns to the point where I don't have to work anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, but the 50-30-20 rule has worked so much and has cleaned up my finances. So what are some saving strategies? And I won't only ask you, Zaire, I ask you as well, Lap. What are some saving strategies that you guys have heard of or that you guys actually use?
I'll go first. I'll say for me, I definitely like to cut costs. I'm definitely pretty like frugal in a sense, as far as like being a minimalist as far as like how I spend, and making sure I know what I how much I spend, because there'll be points in time where well, one, I realize that it's easier to make more money than to save more money, so I do that strategy. Secondly, if I didn't make any money today, why would I spend any? Um, and
I like that one.
yeah, and then also just the little things, right? Like I don't need to, some people have to have coffee every day. Some people have to get a snack at work every day, go to the vending machine, X, Y, and Z. I don't have to do any of that. That saves them money way over time. Also, meal prepping, right? If I already have my meals set for the week, I'm gonna save way more money, because I'll know that I have lunch with me or I have something at home to eat. Um, let's see. A second strategy that I kind of picked up on a lot was using credit correctly.
Right.
And so I was watching a interview of like kind of like a TED Talk or a presentation speech of a guy basically saying that, hey, credit, if you leverage it right, reduces your liability 99%. And what that means is, for example, so I'll I'll give you a couple examples. So recently, I just bought a plane, like a round trip to LA. I didn't, it cost anything. I used my reward points. The reward points cover any rentals that you get, the insurance on that. If you have let's see, if your car breaks down, you get covered on the tow, XYZ. There's like, so one card has like 23 benefits, as well as say if I'm at the gas station and use my credit card, somebody gets my card and they charge it $1 million. My bank account's I'm not responsible for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. I just call the credit card company. Oh, that was fraud.
Right.
Boop.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah, but if it's my debit card, oh, I'm hurt. Cancel Christmas, it's over. And then meanwhile, it's like they'll give ramp up bonus, sign up bonuses where it's like, hey, if you spend $2,000 in X amount of time or $4,000 X amount of time, we'll give you $400. Oh, well, bet, like that's just rent or X, Y, and Z that I was already going to spend. Now I'm basically getting paid more. By spending money, I'm making more money than I would have saved. So I'm saving more money by spending.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But you just can't, you got to have the money to, like, it got to be charges that you're already going to pay for,
Right,
to really get the benefit of it.
Right. Saving strategies.
Yeah, and I have similar strategies. I know growing up before, I discovered the 50-30-20 rule. Me personally, in high school, worked at a few amusement parks up in Orlando, and all those paychecks I got from that, I would just throw them straight into my savings. And then it's like, whenever I had to pay for something, I would just, transfer it over. So this way I just always knew that, hey, there's nothing or little to nothing in my check-ins. So there's never any reason for me to go swiping a debit because everything's sitting in savings. So that was just one little strategy that I did to sort of help me with save money. And sort of to piggyback off of what Brian said with the meal prepping. Before I made the career change to becoming a financial representative, my previous employer, I made lunch every day the 2-3 years that I worked there. And for some people, you have to think about, people are always eating lunch those 5 days throughout the week.
Right.
So let's just say, average lunch is $10.
And that's not include the weekend.
Well, that's
because nobody gonna cook on the
weekend. Exactly. People love, brunching now on the weekends, going out, whatever the case may be. But for the simple fact, we'll keep it just, Monday through Friday, spending money on lunch. Well, average lunch, we'll just say $10. Well, that's $50 a week, $200 a month, $2,400 a year. Just spent on eating lunch every day at work.
That adds up.
So to sort of tie back to what you said earlier, in regards to, people saying, oh, I don't have the money to, invest or whatever. I don't have any money left over after paying my bills. It's like, no, there's always that money there.
Right.
You just really have to dig deep into your budget and look into what you're really spending that money on.
Right.
And I'm not saying everybody has to, uh, eat peanut butter sandwiches every day for lunch. Like
I do.
I understand we all want to live life.
Shouts out to
I
everybody in
understand
the
we all want to
trenches.
live life, eat good here and there. But for those other individuals, I'm just really saying that, hey, do you really need to eat out every day?
Right. Right.
And
Essentially,
just,
yeah.
little things like that. I'm sorry.
No.
But little things like that can just sort of help, like, open up one's budget.
Right. Right. And essentially, you have to become your own bookkeeper.
Yep.
Yeah.
QuickBooks is a great app that you can use and download to help clean up and give you a vivid picture of what's coming in and what's being taken out. Man, you would be surprised how many apps are taking money away from you reoccurringly. Like, there's so many people who don't know that, $5 would be taken out here, $2 have been taken out here off of apps that you probably don't even use. You signed up and you forgot. But because you're not seeing that vivid picture of your monthly income statement, you're just freeballing it. You're not really seeing that these things are being taken out. And like you said, when you tell people like, hey, you got X amount left after you pay your bills, and like, what? Like, you have to really clear up things so you can see where you're going financially. One thing that I hear all the millionaires and billionaires say is, rich doesn't provide happiness. It just makes life easier. And the way I see life is like, why would I want to be focusing all my energy to help precede a company or a corporation to do, to be as good as possible, when I could use all that energy towards set myself financially free so I can really be out here living my best life and completing my own personal journey. So many people get caught up in that, that hamster wheel. And I think more than ever, the internet has given us a very transparent picture of what working for these companies all your life will do for you. I mean, look at the baby boomers right now. Look at the baby boomers. They were promised a life of hard work, save for your pension, 401k, and you will retire. A lot of baby boomers are having to go back to work. You know what I'm saying? They didn't take account of inflation. They didn't take account of, all these, catastrophic economical events. So you mentioned credit. So I want to get into this topic right here. People don't believe that there's good debt. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people hear debt, they get afraid.
Well, yeah, and to that point, money is debt.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
That's what they're not disassociating.
Right.
So it's like your money itself is debt. That's why the savings, if you're not saving it to make an investment or to make a big purchase, it's just going to waste.
Absolutely.
It's just, losing value.
Absolutely. That's a really important point. And there is good and bad debt out there. If your debt, if you take out debt and it's going to give you a ROI, which is a return on investment, that's good debt. You're making money with debt. For example, if I were to take out a $200,000 loan to buy a rental property, you know what I'm saying? I only have to put 10% down. In some cases with FHA, or if you're a first time home buyer with conventional, you only have to put down 3% of the down payment. With that, you're only putting down 3%, and the bank, the lender, or whoever is giving you the money is putting down the rest, and you're getting all the tax incentives. You're getting all the profits, the cash flow, the return on investment. So why wouldn't you take out, good debt?
So you're saying I shouldn't spend $200K on a Lambo?
No, if you can't afford it, if you don't have $500K in cash flow, I wouldn't do it, son. You know what I'm saying?
I shouldn't buy a watch and a chain combo.
No.
I shouldn't buy a Patek.
No, bro. No, that's not true value. And I'm glad that you brought that up, but it goes back to my quote that I read in the beginning of the show. True wealth is the knowledge that's inside here. You know what I'm saying? So going back to what I was saying though, so that's an example of good debt. Bad debt, and I'll let you guys explain this because I know you guys are way smarter than me, but bad debt would be something like buying clothes with a credit card or buying shoes with a credit card. You know what I'm saying? Things like buying liabilities that are not going to produce any type of income is costing you. So I'll let you guys really expand on the good debt versus bad debt.
Um, yeah, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, yeah, buying the newest shoes, trying to keep up with the latest trends and, just swiping a credit card on, all these fits, things like that are definitely, in that bad debt category. And, I saw this actually the other day, which was a very interesting idea. A lot of individuals, have been getting the stimulus checks. And I'm sure a majority of people have just been spending them and, not thinking anything of it, unfortunately. But this idea that I saw that I thought was very interesting was, let's say us three decided to, put our three stimulus checks together. Well, we could have used that to go buy a used car that now we can rent out on Turo. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that, have not heard of Turo, it's essentially like Airbnb, but for vehicles. So you can, pay a car owner, X amount of dollars for X amount of days to rent their car for however long. So like things like that is like, hey, that's good debt because, maybe our three stimulus checks don't, come up to enough to purchase a car outright. But if we just put those three checks together and now we take out a little car loan, well, renting the car out on Turo, it's gonna make our money back and then some.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. I'm glad that you simplified it to that factor because a lot of people don't know. They just don't know. And it's not their faults. We have been programmed through the school system to think that debt is just a horrible thing. But in reality, if you do things that the government wants you to do, like building real estate and doing things like that, like they give you like incentives. They help you and you get like benefits. People get mad that the rich don't pay, taxes. It's not their fault. That's just how the system is constructed, motherfucker. You gotta really begin to educate yourself. And it's always gonna go back to that quote. The true wealth is inside your head. The knowledge inside your head is not about the money that you have or the cars that you have. We've been tricked to think that, man. You look at all these rappers and these chains and all that. We think that these guys are rich. No, bro, not really.
Well, plus, like, for them, if they're rappers, they're entertainers, so that's like an investment for them. That's part of their image. So it makes sense, right? Yeah. If I'm a motherfucker working at a damn takeout joint, why would I want to have all those chains on? You know what I'm saying? Or if I'm just somebody driving a school bus, why would I try to be driving with all these chains on or something,
Right.
And then, so it's like
you snob, I'm not gonna lie.
You really gotta stay in your lane, Like, just because it's cool, you know what I'm saying? But and that makes me want to bring up another point is because it's just like certain I feel like certain quotes that we've learned or caveats that we've learned are very disingenuous, right? They're kind of like very I'm not gonna say moronic, but they're very shallow, right? And so when the question, when people say, money won't bring you happiness, mm-hmm. right? What brings you happiness,
Right.
If I'm thirsty, the water's not bringing me happiness. It's quenching my thirst.
Okay.
You feel me? Like if I get a massage because I'm tight, I'm not going to be happy once I get the massage. I'm going to be loosened up.
Right.
So it's like, you can't really equate things to happiness because some people, I'll be happy when I get this, when I get this promotion, when I get X, Y, and Z. Right. Will you be happy or will you just be satisfied in that moment?
Right.
And so when we look at money, just like all those other things, we can't equate happiness to titles, to possessions, because it's really, I don't care how bad of a day you're having. If I dropped $100 million at your feet, you'd be a little ecstatic.
Yeah.
Maybe not forever.
Right.
But in that moment.
Right.
And so same thing with something else. If you was in the desert, walking for days, and I dropped gallons of Aquafina, or no, wait, what's the good one? Some Smart Water.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
fuck the sign, you fuck the nobody.
Hey, I'll one up you. Just Water. Jaden Smith, he's black. That's black owned business. Shout out to Jaden Smith. Just Water.
Yeah. So, you'd be happy,
Right.
but you'd be more so, so that's what I feel like is disingenuous when people say, money won't bring you happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, when we say happy, I mean, what is that per se? More so than something that's, very subjective.
Absolutely.
It's not something that you can really tie to a possession.
Right.
Somebody that wants a child will be like, I'll be happy when I get a child, but they're cute until they're not, per se. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a point in time where it's just like you'll be, very ecstatic in that moment, but it always dies out. It's it's an ebb and flow of life.
Right.
So definitely with money, it's definitely a tool, and you really just gotta. It's like a water, I guess. It just flows. You just gotta use it and kind of build. But you're only able to do that with the mindset, because it takes some risk, right? You have to sometimes give your money up front to get it on the back end. But
that's scary.
Yeah,
That's
is
scary.
Yeah.
And that's why you get tax benefits and make more money, because you assume all the risk. Right? Like the employer has all the risk.
Right.
All the employee has to do is show up.
Right.
And barely do the minimum.
Right.
Barely.
Yo, and you're so right about that. You know what stops a lot of people from investing or being an entrepreneur? It's fear. It's fear.
Yep.
It's fear. People don't want to take the risk. They've been told, that it's a risky thing to put your money into something that's so volatile. But really begin to look at who you're listening to. Because 9 out of 10 times, the people that you're listening to have never taken a risk. You know what I'm saying? They've never done anything big. So, of course, they're going to be scared. You have to really look at things objectively. You have to really think. Like, I want to talk about this. Money. So we say, like, money doesn't grant you happiness. But you know what it does do? It frees you. It frees you from the daily grind. So when you're freed, you can begin to pursue things that make you happy. You know what I'm saying? So that's all we're saying, man. And that's it. We're just saying that having a consistent cash flow of income coming your way, where possibly you don't even have to work, it's passive. That can really change your life. And all it takes is you educating yourself financially and making smart investments.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and you were talking before the show how you're studying and because you have to continue to educate yourself. You're in a great position where you are managing these people's money, making smart choices with these people's money so it can be safe and so it can grow. But that leads you to having to continuously educate yourself. I just want you to talk about, work ethic and the type of work ethic you have to have in order to be successful.
Yes. So, man, I'm pretty sure all of us, have a background in, athletics, grew up playing sports. I'm sure all of us did. So, a quote that's always sort of stuck with me was, you're not always going to wake up and be motivated. You're not always going to be motivated every day, but you have to be disciplined. And that discipline is what will really, set you ahead and set you apart from, others in regards to, hey, I might just wake up tomorrow, I'm not really feeling it. I might have all these meetings and it's just a bad day mentally for me. I'm gonna just cancel, free up my schedule. Well, if I do that, those individuals that are looking forward to meeting with me, maybe they really need my financial advice. Maybe they really need to hear something I have to say to them that they can then pass along to others that might be beneficial to whoever else.
Right.
So that discipline factor really comes into play that, hey, you might not wake up every day motivated, but just know you being disciplined and you sticking to it, even on those bad days, will take you so much further.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. That's very powerful, man. I want to jump back into the progression that we were going to as far as like finances. Another thing that we were about to talk about was assets versus liabilities. What are some of the most common liabilities you see that people are accumulating that's cutting out that extra excess cash flow?
Man, people
OnlyFans.
love oh
We're
man,
gonna find out who got the
people love
subscriptions.
driving, people love driving fancier cars than they should be, man. I had a meeting with a college professor, I want to say 2, 3 weeks ago. She's doing well for herself. She's making good money, but man, her car note was like, 2, 3 times someone's rent.
Oh.
And it's just like, you're a college professor. Like, who? Why are you out here trying to, live like this? Like you a model? I don't know, whatever it may be. Like, oh man, you guys remember that truck that G Herbo's girlfriend got him?
Well,
It's like a track hawk or something. I
Oh,
think it's called.
no.
oh yeah, I
She
know
got-
that. Holy
That's
shit!
what she was driving.
She was driving a track hawk.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's crazy.
A college professor driving a track hawk.
Oh my
Why?
god, flex.
Why?
I
Like,
mean, well,
why?
fuck.
What's the point?
I mean, at least put down a bigger down payment. I mean, like lower your monthly. I mean,
Yeah, but to sort of answer your question, man. Yeah, some of the main liabilities that really affect these individuals' budgets is really just the vehicles that they're driving.
Right.
They're tying up so much of their extra money into these cars where it's like, hey man, like I said, I understand we all work hard for our money. We want to, spoil ourselves and, treat ourselves.
we gonna see her doing donuts in the
But-
parking lot. We gotta watch out. She gonna be coming to class late.
Right.
But when it comes to, treating ourselves, spoiling ourselves, that's what we have to keep in mind, making sure we don't really live above our means.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
it's like for her situation, if, I'm sure she could still get just as nice of a car, but pay a lot less. And then it's like all that extra money that she'd be saving, well, now she can be setting her future self up and for a better position, investing it wherever it may be.
right. And I feel like that's the theme of the show. People living beyond their means, I like to break it down to this. I hope I'm right. I'm pulling some exercise science information from 2 years ago. I graduated about 2 years ago, so please forgive me if I'm wrong. But the limbic system of the brain, I think that's the reward system. We are so controlled by that. You know what I'm saying? And to break it down even further, a lot of people look at their peers on Instagram and they see that, okay, so-and-so is living a better life, but we came from the same place. And it's that comparison. It's that comparison. And we all live in a reality where we're trying to compete with the Joneses. And so a lot of people make irrational decisions, financial decisions that are completely obvious that's going to put them in the hole. It's completely obvious. Like that woman, why are you paying a car note that's 3 times your rent? That is so silly. That is so silly. Because what you could do is get a economical car that's cost effective. You know what I'm saying? Maybe something like a Corolla or something like that. All right. The money that you would have saved over, put that into the investment, have that give you a ROI, a return on investment, and now you're getting a little bit of cash flow. And so instead of buying something out of just pure irrational behavior and having to live paycheck to paycheck, stressing financially, what you did do was make an investment in buying that cost-effective car where you can save a little bit more money, monthly income, and put towards an investment where you can develop some cash flow, and then that cash flow over time builds up, right? And then now you can you if you keep making good investments that way, you can eventually afford that. So many people are rushing into things, and it's like self-destructive behavior.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
My bad. But just a quick tangent I wanted to, I guess discuss as well is that, we are the assets, as people. We bring the value to the companies, to the work, to the space itself, And so one thing's for sure. This is a quote from Jamie Dimon,
All right.
the guy from J.P. Morgan and Chase. Certain things may happen, when you take a risk and you lose money, X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, it'll only affect your net worth, not your self worth. And some people's net worth are more than their self worth, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So they have to keep on reaching for external things. When it's just like, at the end of the day, it's not, it's really more so of, I always say this, but and when I say it, people think like, oh, it's the superficial version. But, I say it's in you, not on you. And I don't just mean about just like swag, drip, X, Y, and Z. I mean the title, right? Like your title. You're a financial representative. You were that before the title. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some people, you can't just throw somebody in the water and call them a fish. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, you are who you are in a sense already. Some people are already leaders. You can acquire these things, but at the end of the day, you see some medical professionals, right? Or, people in high positions, they can get kind of, I guess, gripped by the balls, you say, if there's titles or declarations are taken away from them. But at the end of the day, you are who you are. You know what you know. You know what I mean? Nobody can take that away from you. And that may be some of the problem, for the example of the teacher, you just seem silly, right? When somebody asks you what you do and you're driving this sweet ass car and it's like, oh, I'm a teacher. It's like, I know that, then why are you working? Or X, Y, and Z, or, like certain things, it's kind of just like, you don't want to maybe fake the funk or try to impress your neighbor, X, Y, and Z, because those things come back to bite you.
Right.
But, it's a trap in itself, when you look at, I guess, Christmas, right? Holiday spending. You might feel obligated to put some of those spendings on your credit card to get a little extra money to make it stretch. And really, that's the trap in itself, Now, every Christmas, you're trying to pay back last Christmas, adding on to this Christmas, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And, at that point, it seems very like, hey, I'm just trying to do something for my kids. But at the same time, are you more so hurting everybody in the house now?
Right.
Just by not being, more so responsible in that aspect.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, back to that point, yeah, it's like your net worth will be affected, not your self worth.
Right.
And if what I also notice is that I had to tell one of my coworkers this because he's about to get a new job and he's about to make more. But I'm like, hey, bro, I mean, just because you make more doesn't mean you should spend more.
Right.
That defeats the purpose.
Yes.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
that defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend as much as you're making now, like you could give people 100 pay raises and they still going to be paycheck to paycheck. They're going to get a new car. They're going to get a new crib. It's like, my boy, you got to wait till the cash check.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right about that, man. I want to get your expertise on this, Zaire. So as far as, we know what the problem is. There's too many items in the liability, columns, and there's too little items in the asset column, right? And to let me backtrack a little bit for the people who don't know what a liability and an asset is, and that's okay because I didn't know either until I start to educate myself financially. But a liability is something that basically takes away from your monthly income, and an asset is something that builds your monthly income, just in layman terms, And so I want to ask you, what are some good quality assets that is attainable for the average person out there? I'm not talking about, millionaires or whatever, but what is something that, the worker who's working paycheck to paycheck, what are some assets that they can get their hands on to help build some more cash flow, monthly cash flow?
Oh man. can help build some monthly cash flow. That's great. Um, well, I know for those individuals that, are working the corporate America jobs, I always sit down and tell them that, hey, in regards to your retirement at least. So we'll come back to the monthly passive income, but in regards to the retirement picture, a Roth IRA is something great to keep in mind. And, for those individuals that don't know what a Roth IRA is, it's essentially money that you contribute to. It's after tax dollars that you're contributing. So come retirement time at age 59 and a half, but we'll just call it 60, you have access to all those contributions throughout the years tax free. So things like that are definitely great to take advantage of. And, when I sit down with individuals, I always assume, we're all going to be successful. We're all going to, make more money and earn more money. So how the Roth IRA is structured is once you reach a certain income, you're not allowed to have access to it anymore because the government is like, hey, you're earning, 300K a year. Obviously, you're in a higher tax bracket. So we want more of that. And with the Roth IRA, allowing you to have access to those tax-free dollars, I always say, hey, before we start earning that 300K a year potentially, we should definitely utilize something like this that provides such a great advantage to us.
That is a wonderful point that you brought up, and I just want to further simplify it by asking you this question. So you're saying that if I think that I'm gonna make more money in the future, I should probably do a Roth IRA versus a 401k, because 401k is you're paying taxes once you take the money out, once you get ready for a retirement.
Yes.
Right.
So, yes, that's how the 401k works. So, when it comes to that retirement picture, and I'm sitting down creating these financial plans for individuals, I always like to, simplify and say, hey, we want to make sure that we're always, creating as many buckets as possible. And what that means is, we might have some real estate investments. We might have the 401k, the IRA, the stocks, mutual funds, whatever the case may be. So all these individual things are their own individual buckets pouring into this big cash reserve. So come retirement time, now we're sitting on this big goose egg.
Right.
So to sort of answer your question with the 401k, how that's structured is like, yes, come retirement time when you take out your contributions, you're taxed on those dollars, but it's sort of free money that you've been getting throughout the years in regards to, hey, your employer's been matching you up to a certain percentage. So when I sit down with individuals, I say, hey, if your employer is, going to match you 4%, don't contribute more than 4%. Match them, see eye to eye at that 4, because that's essentially free money that you don't want to leave on the table.
Right.
So the Roth IRA really just comes in as, a complement to the 401k, and then to a complement to everything else that, individual might have in place.
Right.
And I remember last week we were talking about, tell us more about, or give us, for somebody new to this, and obviously nobody was there when we were talking like last week, but about the life insurance.
Oh man, yes. So it's funny, man. You sit down with individuals and you want to educate and inform them on life insurance, but people sometimes hear the word life insurance and like run to the hills, like, oh man, what life insurance? Like he's trying to sell me something. I don't want to talk to him. But how life insurance works is you have two types. You have term insurance and you have whole life insurance. So, the discussion we had the other week, Brian, the term insurance, I like to compare it to, renting an apartment, leasing a car. It's temporary coverage that you pay for year in, year out. And then after a certain amount of time, it expires and there's no return on your dollars. So just based off, how it's set up and structured, it's inexpensively cheap because statistically speaking, you're going to outlive your term life insurance coverage. And how life insurance is set up, it's very age and health sensitive. So let's say, Brian, you decided to purchase 20 years worth of term insurance. Well, statistically speaking, you're going to outlive that 20 years worth of, term insurance. So when those 20 years have passed and now you want to purchase more life insurance, well, one, you're 20 years older, so that affects your insurance premiums. And two, God forbid you developed any bad health habits over those 20 years. So now you're at risk of saying, hey, I have to pay more because of, my health has, depleted, or, insurance companies aren't going to insure you because you have certain health conditions.
Right.
So things like that come into play. And then to, educate and inform on the other type of insurance, which is whole life, this is more so, I like to compare it to like owning a home. When you own a home, it appreciates over time. It builds equity. Well, whole life insurance is similar to that in regards to there's a cash value growth that accumulates throughout the years and builds equity within the policy. So to break that down, Northwestern Mutual, for example, all the money that they collect, whether it's the insurance premiums and investment dollars from all policyholders, they go out as a company and they invest, in real estate, other businesses, flipping skyscrapers, whatever the case may be. And then that profit that they earn as a company, with them being a mutual company, that means there's no stockholders to begin with, which is very beneficial. So what that means is the profit that they earn, they pay it directly back to the policyholders as dividend rate. And that dividend rate is what allows that cash value growth within a whole life insurance policy to accumulate. So when you talk about, having this thing that's, accumulating and growing outside the volatile stock market, you can only imagine what it could look like 20, 30, 40 years from now to complement someone's retirement. And also, like I said, in regards to having that, another bucket pouring into that cash reserve.
Right. And all we're doing right now is introducing like knowledge to you guys. You have to do your due diligence in researching this and trying to figure out what is the best, policy for you and what is the best financial strategy for you. What do you actually want to do? But really, we're trying to create a platform, a conversation that introduces, a new mind to the financial world, different, strategies that you can commit to and do to help set you up for the future. Because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, you want to feel like you are setting yourself up for the future. If you're working paycheck to paycheck and you're buying bullshit like, a BMW, knowing that you can barely afford that, you know what I'm saying? Buying a house, knowing that you can barely afford that, but deep down in subconscious, what you're trying to do is compete with the Joneses. You got to get away from that. You really do, because that's not the way to set yourself up for the future. Who wants to be working still in their 60s? Who wants to be working still in their 70s? You should be chilling, bro. Matter of fact, my whole thing is you should be chilling really when you're younger. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I'll speak on this. Like I feel like there's a quadrant, right? And Robert Kiyosaki, he's really good at explaining this 4 quadrant. But essentially what it is on the left side, you have the employee, you have the self-employed, and on the right side, you have the business, CEO of the business, and you have a investor, right? And on the right side of the quadrant, you really don't have to work for money. You're not exchanging time for income. You get what I'm saying? So if you have a strong passive income cash flow coming in, what does that mean? That means you don't have to work for money. You have free time to do other things. And if you want to develop other streams of cash flow, you can, but you have that option. You know what I'm saying? So it's really what this podcast is for, is to really introduce you to all these things that we're talking about. And like I said, man, I'm so grateful that you you came on the show and dropped so many jewels. And Brian, I'm glad that you have added to the conversation and added so many jewels as well. I have a question. So someone asked me the other day, what should I do? They said, should I invest or should I save money? And really, I said you should probably be doing both, but
Yes.
but I put an emphasis on investing, and the reason why is because I'm going to use an example of real estate. You get an ROI, so you get a return on investment. So if I put $10 down on something, I'm gonna use small numbers to make it simplistic. If I put $10 down on something and I get a 1% investment, God, I hope my math is right. I get a $1. I get a $1 return. Is that right?
I don't even know what you. Wait, what?
Okay, if I put $10 down and I get a 1% return on investment, that's $1 back.
Nah, that's 10%.
10%. Jesus Christ. 10%.
Wait, I'm out of cap. No.
No, you're right. You're right.
1% is a penny in it.
Yeah,
Or
it's
10 cents.
10 cents.
Okay,
So-
yeah, 10 cents.
yeah.
Okay, so the Tennessee whiskey is talking right now. Please forgive me, but you get that 10% ROI back. You're getting $1 back on that $10. You know what I'm saying? So if that's a monthly ROI, after 10 months, you made back what you put in. And say if that's real estate, really, if you're doing a buy and hold strategy, you're keeping that. And you just, after that 10 months, you're going to keep accumulating excess wealth. You get what I'm saying? So not only are you getting the ROI, you're getting tax incentives because you're doing something that the government wants you to do. The government is not good with real estate. Banks that are holding foreclosure housing, they're actually losing money. They want you to buy that and be able to build your local community. So you get tax incentives for that. And what does that mean? That means basically I don't have to pay taxes. I don't. Because I'm getting depreciation, I'm getting deduction. So come tax time, I show the IRS that, hey, I invested in this property, but look, there's depreciation from the house. The house is getting older, and there's certain things that are worn out, and then there's also deductions. For example, startup cost. That's a deduction, a tax deduction that go against your house income. So you have to start thinking like that, and then also you hold a tangible asset. It's tangible. It's real. You know what I'm saying? And it also appreciates. So on top of that, you're getting a monthly cash flow, you're getting tax incentives, and then it's appreciation. So your equity in the properties is increasing. And so what I'm basically saying is you just have to think about money different. You have to forget about what the education system has taught you about debt and all that. And you have to really educate yourself. You have to find reputable people who are successful already, who hopefully drop books. And I'll tell you, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book to read if you want to start financially educating yourself. There's so many books out there, but really you have to start thinking different about money. So, Zaire, I'm going to ask you, for someone who wants to begin to start saving and start investing into things that are going to make them money, where do those people start? Like, they're like, okay, I'm on board. I hear what you guys saying. I'm gonna educate myself. I'm gonna look at these different things. Where can they go to get some professional help?
Well,
because they can really go to you, right?
Yeah, they can for sure. But yeah, man. So for one, that's great that those individuals out there, hopefully listening to this, something would just click in their head and say, hey, it's time for me to take my finances more serious and let me start looking into things. So when I sit down with individuals, depending on their age. If it's around our age demographic, mid to late 20s, I usually say, those individuals should have at least like 3 months worth of, bills, fixed expenses saved up as an emergency fund. God forbid something happens, we have 3 months worth at least saved away. And then from there, it goes into, okay, after you have that 3 months stashed away, well, now let's start looking into investments, and let's start looking into things that, bring us passive income, residual income, things of that nature. And now that we're on this topic, I sort of want to tie back to your earlier question, because I don't know if I answered it or not. So one way that, many people probably don't think about that could sort of help, bring in some passive income throughout the months is vending machines. I don't know how fond or, knowledgeable people are of vending machines, but there's little to no overhead costs. Because, you could go on a website, Google vending machines, and you could find a used vending machine, for $1,000, maybe even a little less.
And what does overhead? What does overhead cost?
Overhead would just, in regards to, let's say if this was a big business, overhead costs would be like, paying for rent on the building,
Lights.
Utilities, like the lights, electricity, things of that nature.
Right.
But with the vending machine, there's no overhead because, it's really just the machine itself.
Right.
All you really have to take into consideration is just, hey, me going to Sam's Clubs or BJ's and, buying all the snacks in bulk. And then obviously as the machine, depreciates over time, just paying for repairs on, parts and everything. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, the startup cost is very minimal. Like I said, there's little to no overhead, but if you find the right location, it could bring you in a lot of passive income month in, month out.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that, not many people think about, but now start to think like while you're out in public, like, dang, here's a vending machine. Like, whether you use it or not, just know like, hey, this is a vending machine. When you see them at the mall, think how prime of a location that is and how much foot traffic is inside a mall.
Right.
So that vending machine, the money it does, man, little things like that, it could be paying your bills and then some.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And guess what? You can create an LLC around that and create a business, and then now you're receiving tax incentives. You're getting deductions, and that goes against the income that the vending machines produce. So guess what? You're paying less taxes to no taxes. So it's really you just have to begin to think like an entrepreneur, because what I know is going to happen is AI. Artificial intelligence is going to integrate into the job force very fast. We're already seeing it with truck drivers and even with people who
on the phone.
On the phone and stuff like that. AR is already taking over those regions, right? But that's going to go into so many different other fields. So really, you have to monetize a skill. You got to, if you're good at, like, for example, if you're good at playing the piano, and again, ladies, Zaire is playing the piano out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, god damn. He's a financial rep, you know what I'm saying? Like, get your head together. But on a serious note, though, man, like, if you can just think back and say, hey, what am I actually really good at? What talents did God give me at birth? And if you can monetize that, which is so easy with the internet and stuff, or even if you don't have a special talent but you have an entrepreneur mind, you can find something that can make you that extra cash flow and that extra money. We're not over here talking about, oh, you got to be a multi-billionaire and you got to have, no, it's just setting yourself free from this obvious hamster wheel that's going on. And I think the best example is seeing the baby boomers now. It does not work anymore of working at a job and just saving, and that's your only safety net, just saving it, because there's like no confidence towards the dollar now. I mean
what I was gonna say with that is
I'm gonna use the restroom, by the way.
Oh yeah, man, duty calls. Going back to kind of just like, our conversation last week and everything like that, it's really boiling down to everyone examining their options to create their own wealth, because there's not really a traditional legacy system to depend on anymore. We're learning that the system is more so built off of our backs and not, it's not a mutual relationship, and looking at maybe the most important chart in the financial industry, which is the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield, the bond market, looking at interest rates, X, Y, and Z, as a rule of thumb, whenever interest rates are low, that means the government is trying to incentivize people borrowing money, taking
Yeah.
out debt to purchase assets X, Y, and Z. When interest rates are high, that means that they want you to not spend money, not borrow, and to save money. And so, as we've seen, over the past years, interest rates go close to, damn near zero, maybe closer to negative now, X, Y, and Z. It's very incentivizing that, hey, our dollars aren't worth anything. They're depreciating. They're not appreciating. Savings, are losing X, Y, and Z. And we have to find creative ways to innovate and solve that problem, whether it's with real estate, whether it's with vending machines, whether it's with Turo, X, Y, and Z. Really have to realize that, borrowing money for the right things will create you cash flow.
Right.
At the end of the day, you don't got to be a millionaire, but if you can make, 50K hands free, you doing something. You know what I mean? If you making
Exactly.
30, you be 30K hands free, you can do something with that, and that's really the goal, because, the way things are going, it's more so about ownership, It's been very, I want to say maybe my sophomore year of college, I ended up writing like a paper about just about classism.
Right.
And that's where I felt that things were going.
Right.
The major thing back then, I was at a HBCU, they thought it was going to be, kind of more so about racism and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, it's all about classism.
Mm-hmm.
The whole concept of white and black was to differentiate slaves and non-slaves. That's where the whole concept of white and black came from. So from that was just classism built into racism. But it's also always been about class. When you look at the feudal system, it was about classes, and what the differentiation or the common denominator between all those isms is ownership. And so what we're looking at now is that they don't want people to think about how much a car is worth. They want you to see it as a monthly payment. They don't want you to see how much this property is. They want you to think about it as monthly payments. They don't want you to see how much a cell phone costs. They want you to see it as monthly payments.
Right.
Whereas you don't own anything.
Right.
And, like the IMF, the World Economic Forum, all these, high-powered people, even the UN, they see things going into the future as, hey, 2030, poverty ends and you own nothing and you'll be happy.
Right.
When it's like, if that's the case, we look at all these stimulus checks, X, Y, and Z, they're not going to stop, Like, if all I got to do for you to vote for me is promise you free money, that's gonna be the slogan forever. Oh yeah, well 1,500. Oh, I'm gonna give you 2,000, 2,000, make it 3,000. Like, we're gonna keep going back and forth.
Right.
And meanwhile, labor markets are going down. Every economic crash, labor markets go down as far as unemployment, X, Y, and Z. You look at the CPI. They kind of just like fix the numbers to make it appear that, inflation is not rising high, X, Y, and Z, but they take out factors that really show inflation. Inflation, based off reality, is grocery prices, housing prices, the cost of education, the cost of medicine. Those are real inflation. They're trying to gauge it off of some goofy shit that we don't even, that's not even tangible.
Right.
But those are where we feel it. We feel it in gas prices, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Car, especially cars and phones, right? It's the same shit. Oh, you got an extra button. Oh, it might you got a new color.
Hey, it's always the camera shit though that they get people with.
Yeah. The new display. It's the same shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, now I can charge more. Right. Especially if I know, right? We saw this in the pandemic. Oh, y'all all got stimulus checks. I know how much you got. 1,200. Oh, all right. Well, shit. Now I think 1,200. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I know how much money you got now, so it's like, I can just raise the prices. You can't say you ain't got it, because we all got, you know what I'm saying? So at that point, it's only assets will appreciate, whether it be land, whether it be things that people own, you can charge more, because technically, if everybody getting paid $50 an hour, well, shit, why can't I raise everything else up to convert to that price?
Right.
And so at that point, it's really going to be about ownership. When you look at economies like in Europe, there's a a ceiling that maybe not be evident, outside looking in. But there's only so many people that own the land there.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people moving in X, Y, and Z that they're just permanent renters.
Right.
And every so often, it's every year your rent gonna go up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you don't own it. And so you don't want to be on the wrong end of that.
Right.
And that's what it's kind of coming down to, because at a certain point, a lot of these jobs, there's too many degrees and not enough skills.
Right.
And what that means is that for a lot of jobs, call centers, maybe, there's not a lot of blue collar workers,
right.
people that drive trucks to do manual labor, like, maybe even cutting grass, being plumbers, electricians, X, Y, and Z. A lot of people are just, in cubicles, on the phones, you know what I mean? Especially with COVID and, everything being virtual.
Right.
You just talk to a digital assistant, and you see that slowly integrating to where it's just like, you kind of, best example, I would just say this, like, as a server, right? People will complain about the tip and tip themselves out the job. Because if I could just, because all you're really doing is delivering the food, per se.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I could just get a robot to wheel the food out on a cart.
Right.
And I mean, that's really, especially if you're not at a high end restaurant, because then people, would pay for the experience. They don't care. But, one thing you like, the more you pay attention. And the crazy thing about that is, customers that pay.
Hey, say that again? That's not.
Oh, the more you pay, the more you pay
that
attention.
was
What the hell? Yo, he has like maybe like 10 quotes like this per episode. It's just like, God damn. I'm
You
sorry.
see how he dropped it in there too, all subtle and smooth, didn't even.
Right.
So the more you pay attention. And so what that means is, a good example, somebody leaves a couch out on the street, right? Some people might touch it, some people might not. A lot of people might not touch it because it doesn't have any value associated to it. So they're going to assume, something must be wrong with this couch. You say, X, Y, and Z. Or, okay, let me buy it off of you, X, Y, and Z. And so what I say by that is, the customers that pay the least complain the most.
Right.
And the customers that pay the most complain the least. Because they know the value that they're getting.
Right.
They can nickel and dime you down. They're going to be like, oh, well, shit, why am I charging this? Why are you charging that? And try to, you know what I mean? And so, just got to look at it like that. And so once you're, it used to be a luxury to own assets. Now we really don't have a choice, There really hasn't been a pay increase adjusted for inflation.
Facts.
In 30 plus years.
Facts.
The same salaries that could support, a household will not support that. We both got to be working.
Right.
And, just looking at it, $1 million, for a baby boomer, $1 million was maybe the goal. Now you need 10, at least, for us as millennials to retire, how we'd like to. And, the thing about that is that more and more money is being printed.
Right.
So, even like concepts of technology, right? 10 years ago, Instagram wasn't even here. Facebook maybe just getting started. We were probably the earliest thing we know was MySpace. And so when you look at that, it's like, maybe 10 years ago, there may not have even been the concept of a trillionaire.
Right.
Which means money, more and more money is entering the system. And when you look at the difference between $1 trillion and $1 billion,
it's crazy.
And the difference between $1 billion and $1 million.
It's crazy.
Exactly. And so people are still stuck on this thought of, I only got to make $1 million, which means, 10 years from now, there's going to be quadrillionaires. So it's going to take more and more money.
Right.
And it's like, meanwhile, if we're just saving it, the hell, like, think about when we were kids, we felt like the shit if we got $20.
Right.
Now in my head, I'm like, well, fuck. Now I really got to give my kids $100 to go to this, go out.
Right.
Yep.
So now it's like, well, fuck. That $100 is still the same for me, but it don't stretch the same.
Right.
So I was talking to Regis.
Shout out to Regis, by the
shout
way.
out to
He's
Regis.
family of the podcast. We got to get him back on. Shout out to Regis.
So, because me and him, so the first book we made was, Money, the Currency of Illusion.
And where can they get that?
Amazon, or just DM me.
DM me,
It's,
okay.
it's on Kindle, but you can definitely just DM me for the independent sale of it. We're working on a second one. It is called To the Moon, Crypto, Intro to Crypto, something like that. We're still working on it. It's like 6 chapters, but pretty much that's how the phone call started. We were just talking about the book and everything like that, and the opportunity that we see like in the crypto space. It's a whole new asset class,
Right.
and so to go in tandem with with your career as well, a lot more people are going to start asking about Bitcoin. 2017 in the crypto space, it was really just a retail pump as far as retail investors getting in, learning about it, everything like that. Now it's big institutions, the same people that called it rat poison XYZ are flooding into the market.
What did Warren Buffett call it? It was a tool for charlatans, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Shout out to Warren Buffett. Like that.
And when I was telling one of my coworkers, it was like, you gotta it's one of those things where it's like you gotta listen to what they do and not to what they say. You feel me? We out this bitch playing music with chairs, bro. They only know there's 5 seats. there's only 5 seats in this motherfucker, and they ain't got nobody's name on it, so anybody can sit down in it.
Right.
So if you look at Bitcoin, but there's only 21 million.
Right.
There's more than 1 billion people in the world, bro. You ain't got to be shit. You ain't got to have no degree. You ain't got to. All you got to do is just be able to get some.
Right.
So I would have to tell you, oh nah, bro, you don't want her. This shit been ran through. You gotta try to bro. Look over there, bro. Nah, bro, you don't want that. So it's like you kind of gotta misdirect people and tell them, because they like, and that's the game. That's what we're seeing now. All these banks flooding in, trying to hurry up and get as much as they can, because it's one of the realest, hardest assets. Because right now, in the system, cash is the safe haven currency.
Right.
Everybody needs a dollar. Wherever you're at in the world, the dollar is the standard.
Right.
Now it's Bitcoin and crypto.
Right.
Yep.
And what we're talking about is there's sort of certain products that are coming out on BlockFi, X, Y, and Z, where you can stake, and a stake of a coin is pretty much like a dividend. So, for example, you take stake in, let's say there's a crypto on Coinbase called Algo, right? They'll pay you 6% to keep your money in that cryptocurrency on Coinbase. And that's a dividend there.
Yeah.
On top of the growth.
The growth of the coin.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't have to do anything. And so, and then they also have cards now, like credit cards, where you get cash back in Bitcoin. And so that's exponential growth right there.
Right.
And so it's just like, well, fuck, obviously right now it doesn't seem like a lot, but, imagine, 5 years from now, how much that little 1% growth, X, Y, and Z is going to grow just from that 1% on top of the, the compounding of Bitcoin's price.
Right.
And so it's just so much that's happening right now to where, going back to that question, you're saying, what should somebody do? Should they invest and save X, Y, and Z?
Right.
The number one investment is yourself.
Right.
You have to invest in yourself.
Education, right? What's inside, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Because somebody with a lot of money and no knowledge will get their lunch eaten by somebody that has no money and a lot of knowledge.
Absolutely. And we laugh at it, but that's why the lottery winners go broke within a year or 3 years. I want to. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah. You're the guest. You're the guest.
No, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Brian just said before it left my thought. But when I sit down with people, I always ask them, what's your biggest asset? People are so quick to say, oh, my house, or my business, whatever the case may be.
Which is
I always tell them, no, your biggest asset is yourself.
Right.
Because piggybacking off what Brian is saying, that ability to go out and make money, to go out and earn money, to go out and invest in ourselves, that's our biggest asset, is ourselves.
Right.
So I just always bring that up to sort of, hopefully open up someone's mind and, put a new perspective in their thinking.
Right. Hey, man, this is the biggest, right here is the biggest secret. Like, if you don't get anything else from this podcast, please get this. This is the biggest secret right here. The rich own assets and the poor own liabilities. That's it. That's it. That is what is making you poor, because you have way more liabilities than asset. And for most people, their only asset is their time, because they're employees. They exchange their time for a salary or for income. And that's what you got to understand. That's what you got to understand. And that's how you break away from the hamster wheel. You have to realize that owning assets is the way to financial freedom. And financial freedom grants you the ability to break away from this matrix, break away from the rat race, and really do things that you enjoy in life. And that's it. I'm going to name the podcast that. The rich owns asset and the poor owns liabilities. I swear to God, that is the podcast name featuring Zaire. God damn it. I am hot now, boy.
Shit. Whoa. No, I'm playing. If I had like a little, I need like a little button. Flame.
That's the truth, though, man. That's, like you said, if you don't take anything else from this podcast episode, listen to that. That's simplified, like, can't get any more basic than that.
Yeah, and I had something to add. Shit, hold on. I'm about to kind of jump around real quick.
Okay.
But pretty much, it's pretty much about Price's Law,
Right.
where I think it is. Let me try to find it, but it shows like it holds true whether it be businesses, teams, X, Y, and Z of who really produces the most results in a group of individuals, and it's very shocking. And my dad used to tell me a story that goes in line with what I'm about to read, and it all makes sense. Too far. Damn, I need some elevator music. Like a little spinning wheel with like a bird trying to fly, and it keeps falling down.
Hey, real quick, where can they follow you on IG, Zaire? Where can they?
Oh, man. So my Instagram is just, first and last name, Zaire Askew, ZAIRE ASKEW. That's my Instagram. Same, LinkedIn, all that good stuff, man.
Right. And don't you have a link in your bio where they can really get in touch to, your what you do as far as like
Yes.
As a representative?
Yes, of course. And actually, glad you mentioned that. I actually just, started up the business page. It's still
Nice.
under construction,
Right.
Got to get a haircut first, take a professional hairshot and everything. But yes, I have the website also as well in my Instagram bio. And, the website itself is just simply, www.zaireaskew.nm.com. So, that's just somewhere else that, individuals can go and just get some more insight, some more background knowledge on everything it is that I offer and
Right.
can potentially help them with.
Awesome.
Smooth. And with that, I found it. So Price's Law. Price's Law says that 50% of work at a company is done by a small number of people. Specifically, it says that 50% of work is done by the square root of the number of employees. So what that means, the two examples are a company with 80,000 employees. Only 283 people produce 50% of the results.
Oh my God.
Which is insane.
Wow.
But, it makes more sense when we look at an NFL roster, right? On an NFL roster, there's 53 people. Only seven people on the team produce results, and that makes sense, right? We can only name 7 people on the NFL team.
Right. Lamar Jackson produces all the results for Ravens. Shout out to Lamar Jackson.
And so when we look at it, right? So the example that my dad gave me is that, say for a business to cut the cost, they will just pay those people double and get rid of all those extra people.
Right.
And so if we look at, with the $15 an hour, X, Y, and Z, all they got to do is just double somebody's salary, or not even give them a double, maybe a third of it more or something like that. And they'll, keep producing 50%, or they'll might produce, even more.
Right.
So it's just a wild concept.
Right.
And, just looking at the concept of investing, when I, try to explain it to people, it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, what are you working for? You know what I mean? Like, how much money would it take you to not work? You know what I mean? Like, what are you kind of doing outside? Like, there'll be people in videos giving people, or they'll be like, they'll pull up to a drive-through and be like, hey, bro, I got 10K for you to quit right now. You know what I mean? Or X, Y, and Z for you to quit right now. And it's like, if there's no thought of, if I had extra money, like, really, the concept is a consumer mindset and a growth mindset. Because all you want to do is just keep flipping and flipping and flipping your little pot, If I give you 20, you got to bring me 40. With that 40, you got to bring me 80, X, Y, and Z. But it's like, if somebody, gets that 20, and then they just start thinking about, well, shit, what can I buy with this 20?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's not the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, that's just how it goes. It's just like, money's not really, or for example, certain or this is kind of my motto. It's like, I always have something to show for when I spend money.
Right.
So if I don't have anything to show for it, there's no point in me buying it. And so it's like, you really have to look at it as in, for example, like, now we have like credit, so we can leverage it. So even when it comes to like shoes, right? If I can get it for a retail price of $160 and I know it sells for, $1,100, I can do that. More importantly, if I know it's like a guaranteed return, I can use my credit card to buy it. So I'm not coming out of pocket.
Right.
And then at that point, you're building credit as well.
Right.
And X, Y, and Z. So it's like, it's just that whole concept, little by little in any aspect, right? Because it's just about being creative. Get creative.
Right.
Get your shit together.
Yeah. I mean, and if you look at the most successful people like Elon Musk, or like a Jeff Bezos, they have essentially created millions and billions from themselves due off of creativity.
Yeah. Because then, you create opportunities, not for yourself, but for other people. It's really, I feel like it's a perspective shift, but the most powerful thing about having money, we'll put it in like this, right? I don't want to be the king. I want to be the king maker. You know what I mean? Like, if I can, make you a millionaire, make you a millionaire, that's more money. I mean, that holds more weight than saying I'm a millionaire.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I can help you feed your family, if I can help, just say if somebody has, as little as one employee, right? He's allowing somebody to feed their family. If I have 10,000 employees, I'm basically feeding 10,000 families.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's really the perspective that people don't see from, you can vilify Jeff Bezos, all these high people, but they're feeding families. There's a lot of execs, people in the company that are making a lot of money.
Right.
But what are they doing? It's like, what are you doing with that money?
Right.
It's more so going to expose you than anything, Like, it's just a lot of things will expose you, more so than, I guess time will expose all, in a sense, you know? And you just got to pay it forward, whether it be with your own financial destiny, with relationships, X, Y, and Z, because now it's like everybody knows, or most people know, that money isn't worth anything.
Right.
But people are.
Right.
People are worth millions of dollars.
Right.
So if I have money, if I've accumulated a lot of money, all I'm looking for is ways to grow it.
Right.
And so sometimes the best vehicles are people.
Right.
So you'll see people funding people's education. You'll see people's funding people's visions, X, Y, and Z, because they know, like, hey, all I want is like how we started off the pod with Grant Cardone.
Right.
I just want equity.
Right.
And if I get the ownership, that's what we see with music labels.
Right.
They get the equity of that artist, and the artist don't get the equity, and that's backwards.
The artist is the employee.
Right? No, the artist is the asset.
Right.
That don't even know. You know. What
But
I'm
he
saying?
has to
don't even
work.
know you're the asset.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But the rapper has to work though.
Yeah,
and he
same
doesn't
as-
see all his returns.
Yeah, it's like, for example, the golden goose, right?
Uh-huh.
How much the golden goose getting paid? I
Right.
don't know. He's a goose.
Right.
He just laid the eggs. Hell,
Right.
I don't know. I just got to feed him.
Right.
But actually, I want to add two quick things before I forget off of what you're saying, Brian. So I actually remember watching an interview on Magic Johnson, and for those of you who may not know who Magic Johnson is,
Shame.
Hall of Fame NBA basketball player.
How dare you? If you don't know who Magic
Hey,
Johnson
I
is,
don't want to assume.
Yeah,
but for those who may not know,
exactly.
Magic
Shame.
Johnson is Magic Johnson. But in this interview that I watched of him, he mentioned how, coming out of college, out of Michigan State, he was a freshman, they won an NCAA title, and going into the NBA, he was approached by Converse and Nike, and Converse offered him a deal that was, just straight up cash settlement, and Nike approached him with equity, saying, hey, we won't pay you as much cash, but we'll still give you a bit of cash, but then also 10% or whatever the percentage was, stake in the company.
wow.
And for those of you who do not know, Magic unfortunately went with Converse. And in their interview, he always says, how much he regrets the decision, because as we all know, Nike is this, multi-billion-dollar company. And
Oh, yeah.
just having, whether it was a 5%, 10% stake, whatever that percentage is, definitely would have paid him a lot more and continued paying him a lot more than what that cash settlement he got from Converse back in the day.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. Just, piggybacking off of what you're saying, Brian, in regards to, it's not always about that upfront, payment, that reward initially. Is more so, hey, I want the equity. I want that back end, something that's going to continue paying me, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And then the second thing I had was, we've all heard the saying, you give a man a fish, feed him for a day, but you teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life. Another interview I watched was, on Floyd Mayweather. And I know we all know Floyd Mayweather, so I'm not even going to try to break down who he is. But in this interview with Floyd, it was similar to, as wealthy as Floyd is himself, he still has friends that are wealthier than him. Mm-hmm. And in this interview, he was saying that, he would go over to his wealthier friends' houses and, they have these bigger houses, bigger boats, more cars, whatever the case may have been. And he was like, hey, that's nice that you have all these things, but you're not a true friend to me if you don't show me how I can get a bigger house, if you don't show me how I can get a bigger boat.
Right.
So I think that just ties back to what you're saying, Brian, or in regards to saying, hey, I don't want to be the king. I want to be the king maker.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z is a perfect example of that. He even has the verse in Pound Cake where it's like, Ye made millions, Jay made millions. Like he went down a whole list. How big of a flex is that? But he went down a whole list of individuals who he made millionaires. And that's really what it's about. So if I definitely understand that this episode holds a lot of information. That's why I said in the beginning of the episode, bring your notebook or watch the episode, several different times. Please watch the episode several different times. That's good for us. But really what I want to leave on the table and the most important message that I want to leave today is wealth is the financial knowledge that you have in mind. And that's what really equals wealth at the end of the day. And the second thing is, please understand that the rich own assets and the poor own liabilities. And those are the two main factors. Those are the two main things that you should be getting from today's episode. Zaire, thank you so much for coming on this episode. We talk about investments and cryptos and stuff like this, but I feel like having an expert on the show is so huge, and you made it so easy and you simplified it so much, so that the young person who has no financial education can kind of build a foundation off of the jewels that you presented today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is a great episode. I want to leave this episode on a bang and something that's less serious. I noticed that in your captions on basically on all your IG posts, you basically quote like great bars from great artists, and I want to get your take on on who do you think are the top 3 best rappers of all time.
Oh man.
Go.
Oh man. I'm my top 3 is definitely going to be biased. So I'm gonna just clear the air with that now. Man, I'm a big J. Cole fan.
Yes.
You know, just him as a rapper, him as an artist, but more importantly, him as a person and an individual, and you know, everything that he stands for and what he does. And I just really love how you know, he's big on giving back to his community or just communities in general, but he doesn't need the recognition. You know, he doesn't need all the cameras and the spotlight on him.
Right.
He does it out of the kindness of his heart, you know, and that's what really a good deed should be. You know, it shouldn't be, hey, you know, record me giving this homeless man $20 and so this way everyone can see I'm doing a good deed, because that defeats the purpose. But that's a whole nother story. Definitely J. Cole is up there. Man, I'd be a fool to not include Drake in there. And oh man, I guess the third person to round that out would have to be Kanye, man.
Okay.
Have to be Kanye. And just, you know, Kanye just as an artist, a producer, businessman, you know,
billionaire,
everything, man, everything. You know, he just. You know, people may call him crazy and, you know, have all these, you know, ideas and, you know,
the proof's in the pudding.
Negative connotations about him and whatnot. But, yeah, man, he's he's a genius. He's a genius for sure.
Awesome, man. I love that. So you're definitely invited back on the podcast based on your top 3. Based on that, your family, man. I was just joking. But I think this is going to cap the podcast. This is episode 62. So essentially, because me and Brian are back together. Why I say back? This is the first time we're ever together. We are together in Dallas. And so what that means is this is going to be a consistent video podcast as well. So obviously we have our audio. So episode 1 through 62 minus like 4 random episodes that we did do on YouTube. That's already on YouTube. But from now on, so from episode 62 featuring Zaire to all the other episodes are going to be on YouTube. All right. So like I said, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. If you don't, delete us, put thumb downs in the comment or whatever. We love you guys. You've supported us so much. We have 3.1 thousand downloads. I'm absolutely thankful for that because we just started this, and to even think that anybody is listening to this is just an absolute blessing. I mean, we got people all over the world, not in just America, all over the world listen to this podcast. And me and Brian, we talk about every time, like, we appreciate you guys and we love you guys. Zaire, please plug yourself in, plug in all your socials and stuff. Where can the people follow you? Where can they get your help when they need to invest and save?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And before I even mention all that, I just, once again, like I said before the show started, thank you both for, having me on the show. Definitely an honor, a privilege. Brian, thank you for thinking enough of me to be like, hey, we got to get him on an episode and chop it up with him.
Got to get a brother on.
Definitely want to definitely want to give you guys, your props, your credit for that and everything. But Yeah, for those of you that missed it earlier, my Instagram is just, first name, last name, Zaire Askew, ZAIREASKW. LinkedIn, Zaire Askew, of course, and then my business website that's still under construction, but you're still able to go there and just get some more insight and background knowledge on all it is that I can offer, is www.zaireaskew.nm.com.
Awesome. Perfect.
Boom.
And that caps that. We love you. Mwah.
This is the conscious experience.